this is Dreamwalker. Welcome to my channel, True Source. I decided to create this YouTube channel to help bring others to clarity. There's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of really great people sharing their gifts and sharing basically their experiences with spirituality and with enlightenment, and I think it's fantastic. One of the things that I wanted to share with you today has to do with what it's like to even have a spiritual experience. A lot of times people are not certain if what they're feeling is real, because in our society we have basically been taught to numb our feelings or push them down or not acknowledge them. And we've also been taught to disregard certain things that we feel, to the point where we don't always know if what we're feeling is real or if it is valid even. A lot of people have been invalidated in their lives and don't know if what they're feeling, what they feel is what they should be feeling, or if it's even okay. So I wanted to give a few examples of what it's like to have what I consider to be a spiritual experience. And this can vary from person to person. It can vary, from an intensity. It can be a very intense situation. It can be a very subtle situation. Doesn't have to be, the heavens opening up and, messages downloading, or a lot of things that you hear about on YouTube that seem very intense. Sometimes the most profound experiences are actually really quite subtle. For me in particular, many of my spiritual experiences occur around energy and feelings and emotional outbursts, or I don't want to use the word outburst. That kind of makes it sound like it's like I'm like flying off the handle or something like that, but an outpouring of emotion. I learned at a very young age that my emotions were probably my most powerful aspect of myself, but unfortunately at a young age I learned to fear them, to stamp them out, to ignore them, to invalidate them in order to fit into society and in order to, basically go on with daily life. Like a lot of people, we use things like medication or psychotherapy to cope with intense emotion. And what I didn't understand was that my emotions were, in fact, the key to my spiritual awakening, to my clarity, to my understanding the universe, understanding myself, and becoming the person that I'm meant to be. So what does that look like practically? For me in particular, one of the first times I remember experiencing this sort of emotional outpouring, I guess when I was doing yoga, we called it a breakthrough. If you do yoga, or if you do a lot of, if you've ever done a yoga teacher training or something, you've probably heard that word breakthrough before. And what would happen is I would do yoga classes, or and I would get really into them, like hot yoga, or something very challenging, and I would push myself beyond what I thought I was capable of. And for some people, pushing yourself, you just get euphoria, you get the that feeling of adrenaline, or like from that, what people get when they are runners and they enjoy running, or exercising in general. For me, when I would reach that point, it would be like my heart would crack open like an egg. It would feel like everything that ever happened to me in my entire life just sort of like exploded out of my chest. And I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way or in a negative way, but in a I just want you to understand like intensity with which I felt the emotions. It would, and at the time I didn't really know what I was feeling. At the time it seemed more like just intense emotion, like I was crazy. Honestly, I thought I was crazy because I would cry or I would hyperventilate a little bit, or like I'd have hysterical laughter. I mean, in the middle of a yoga class, just hysterically laughing or crying and laughing at the same time, out of nowhere. But again, it would just be this amazing release of energy and a release of emotion that I can barely even really put into words. Barely put into words. So that was one of the first times that I experienced that. I've had that happen to me a few other times outside of just yoga classes. Sometimes it happens when I am doing, if you can hear the noise in the background, my cats are going nuts right now. They're chasing each other around the living room, and I apologize. But one of the other times that this happens to me is when I am doing karma clearing. And sometimes that is done with, I have an emotional healer. I really don't know what to call her, and I don't really know what it is she does, but she does like some muscle technique where she helps me discover, I mean, we do a little bit of like past lives, we do a little bit of just current life emotional clearing, and sometimes it's karma clearing. And when I basically, to put that into words, whenever I come into some understanding or some memory of something that is deep down, like maybe what other people have called a core wound, whenever I become conscious of something like that, I have the same, all I can call it is a visceral reaction emotionally. My heart cracks open like an egg. I usually cry or have some sort of like outpouring of emotion with hysterical laughter or something. Usually I feel energy around my third eye, my crown chakra, and my heart chakra are the three places that I've been able to feel sensation in the body when it comes to these sorts of spiritual experiences. And so all of that really just to say, bring your attention to those sorts of feelings. Just, in your daily life, become aware of sensations that may feel like intense emotion. It may feel like tingling or a sensation in the center of your chest, in the center of your forehead, or in the center of your, or the crown of your head. And these can be indications of some kind of spiritual or emotional experience that your body, your light body, your higher self may be tapping into some kind of energy, or, the more often that you become aware of these things, the more often that you put your attention to them. And that's not to say, you can think of this as a meditation that you do like on an ongoing basis. Instead of just sitting down, quietly for 20 or 30 minutes a day, maybe just pick something, and this can be the one thing for like a week or something, and bring your attention to it whenever you think about it. So you might think about it maybe once in the next few hours after you listen to this video, or you might think about it 15 times, or you might think about it once in the next week. But any time that you do, no judgment on how often, but any time that you do think about it, generally bring your attention to it. Notice if you feel any sensation, And maybe, you know, if you're the type of person who likes to journal about those things, maybe journal about it. Write down your thoughts, write down the sensation and maybe what you were feeling at the time, or maybe what triggered it. And, you know, again, this is just to become aware. The more often you become aware of these things, the more often that they're going to continue to happen and become normal, the more often that you'll begin to feel more in yourself, more of spirit. And the more often, you know, in fact, you know, there will be new levels that you can reach just from increasing your awareness about these sort of sensations that are indications of a spiritual experience or a spiritual awakening. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Not much of a video, I know, it's just you looking at my tarot decks, but I hope to do more in the future. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I do encourage you to like the video if you did, share it if you know anyone who would benefit from this conversation, and also I encourage you to put any comments down below, anything that you felt or understood about the video, or any comments at all. I'll read them all. I may not be able to respond to them all, but I certainly will read them all and hopefully continue the discussion. See you next time. Namaste.